In this video, we're going to be talking about comparison and logical operators. These operators are used in conditional statements in JavaScript, and they're important for adding dynamic logic to your code. So let's see how they look. So JavaScript has a lot of comparison operators. These operators usually compare two values and tell you whether the comparison is true or false. So let's take a look. The first comparison operator is the equality operator, and it's written as a double equal signs. So double equals is the equality operator in JavaScript, and this is used to test for equality in two values. So it's used to test whether two values are same or not. So if the two values are equal, then the result is true. If they're not, then the result is false. So in this example, we have 3 equals 3, which means 3 is equal to 3. And of course, we know that 3 is indeed equal to 3. That's why the result returns true. But if we wrote 3 equals 4 or anything other than 3, then it would have been false. Another operator is the strict equality operator, and it's written as 3 equal signs side by side. Now the strict equality operator also checks for equality, which means it also checks whether the two values are equal or not. But it takes into account the data type of values as well. So for the equality operator, the data type doesn't matter. If the values are the same, then it will return true. But with strict equality operator, the value must be the same and the type must be the same as well. So 5, the number, strict equality, 5, the string, returns false. However, this would have returned true if we used the normal equality operator. But in strict equality, we need to take into consideration the data type as well. So numbers cannot be equal to strings and vice versa. That's why strict equality operator also takes into consideration the data type along with the value when evaluating the equality. And that's why 5 is strictly equal to string 5 is false. The opposite of the equality operator is the inequality operator. The inequality operator works exactly opposite as the equality operator, returning true if the values are not equal and returning false if the values are equal. The inequality operator is written as an exclamation sign and then an equal sign. So in this case, we have two strings. String A is not equal to string B, and the result is true because string A is not actually equal to string B. So you can read it as string A not equal to string B, and that is true. The opposite of the strict equality operator and the counterpart of the inequality operator is the strict inequality operator, and it's written as an exclamation sign followed by two equal signs. And the strict inequality operator, just like the strict equality operator, also takes into consideration the data type when evaluating inequality. So if the two values are not the same and the data type is not the same as well, then it returns true. Otherwise, it'll return false. So in this case, string A is not equal to string A, which returns false because string A is indeed equal to string A. So string A not equal to string A is not true. That's why it returns false. Then we have the greater than operator, which is written as a greater than symbol. And this operator will tell you whether a value is greater than another value. So for example, 7 is greater than 3 will return true because indeed 7 is greater than 3. The opposite of the greater than operator is the less than operator, which is written as the less than symbol. The less than operator, just like the greater than operator, will tell you whether a value is less than another value. So for example, 4 is less than 2 is false because 4 is not less than 2, 4 is bigger than 2. So 4 less than 2 returns false. Then we have the greater than or equal to operator. This works just like the greater than operator, but it'll also return true if the values are the same. So the greater than or equal to operator is written as a greater than symbol and then an equal sign. So 10 greater than or equal to 10 is true because 10, while it's not greater than 10, it is equal to 10. That's why it returns true. However, if we use just the greater than operator, so for example 10 is greater than 10, then it will return false because 10 is not greater than 10. 10 is equal to 10. And similarly, we have the less than or equal to operator, which is written as a less than symbol and then an equal sign. And this operator will return true either if the first value is smaller than the second value or they are the same. So for example, 9 is less than or equal to 7 is false because 9 is not equal to 7 and it's not less than 7 as well. So ultimately it returns false. These are a few comparison operators available in JavaScript, and these are the ones you'll be using most often. So let's take a more detailed look at each one of them. First, we'll start with the equality operator, and we'll see some examples. So let's start with some simple examples. 3 is equal to 3, so 3 equals 3, which returns true because 3 is indeed equal to 3, right? So that's how the equality operator works. It checks whether the two values are equal or not. However, the data type doesn't matter. So in this case, we have a 3 string and a 3 number, and they're still equal in the equality operator. So string 3 equals 3 is still true because the data type doesn't matter. If the values are the same, then it'll return true. So in this case, although one is a string and another is a number, the value of both are the same, which is 3. That's why it returns true, regardless of the data type. Now the equality operator doesn't only work on numbers, it can also work on strings. So for example, string apple equals string apple, which is true because string apples is equal to string apples. In order for two strings to be equal, they must be exactly the same with the same case, same letters, and same sequence. Now the Boolean value false, if you remember, is actually treated as 0 in JavaScript and in general computer programming. That's why 0 is equal to false returns true, because false is treated as 0 as well. That's why the data type doesn't matter. One is a number, another is a Boolean, but the values are the same. That's why it returns true. And similarly, the Boolean true is regarded as 1 in JavaScript and in general computer programming. That's why the string 1 is equal to true also returns true, because string 1, which has a value 1, and the true Boolean, which also has a value 1, they're the same. That's why it returns true. Now do remember that with equality operators, null is equal to undefined. So although they're not the same, there's difference between null and undefined, because null means a deliberate non-value and undefined means the value is just not defined yet, but with equality operator, it is treated as the same. That's why they're treated as equal, and it returns true. And finally, it works on Booleans as well. So false is equal to false, which returns true, because false is equal to false. Of course, if the values are not the same, the equality operator will return false. So for example, 3 is equal to 4 returns false because 3 is not equal to 4. The values don't match. Also note that the string true is not equal to the Boolean true. These don't have the same values. That's why it's false as well. Now here's a very important thing to remember. In JavaScript, two different objects, even if they're identical, can never be equal to one another. Okay, remember that. Two objects, even if they're identical, they can never be equal. Objects can only be equal if one is referenced by another. But if they're two separate objects, even if they're identical, they're not equal. So arrays are a type of objects in JavaScript. So here we have two identical arrays. The first array has the value 1 and 2. The second array has the value 1 and 2 as well. But although they have the same values, they're not the same, because no two objects in JavaScript can be the same, even if they contain the same values. And this might come off as a surprise if you're using the new string method instead of just using the string literal method. So remember, in the very first modules of this course, we told you that not to use the new string method because it creates a string object and not a string literal. And because objects are not equal to one another, if we have two string objects with the same value, for example, we have variable a which contains new string abc, so it contains a string object with the value abc. And then we have a variable b which also contains a string object with a value abc. So you might think that variable a and variable b are equal to one another. Unfortunately, they're not. A equals to b returns false because variable a contains a string object, variable b contains another string object. That's why two objects in JavaScript can never be the same. That's why although they contain the same value, both has the value the string abc, but because they're objects, the different objects are never equal to one another. That's why a is not equal to b. A equals to b returns false. So here we created two variables with two string objects. However, if we created one variable with a string object, say var a equals new string abc, but instead of var b equals to another new string abc, if we wrote var b equals a, so b is referencing to a, then a equals to b would have returned true. That's why we shouldn't use the new string syntax and just use string literals instead, because that might cause a lot of problems and bugs.